Number 10.
This may look obsessive, but I use a sugar scrub on my hands before I start any artwork. This just keeps the paper clean, and when I'm not videotaping, I always put paper under my hand.
Number 9.
Good pencils are expensive, so to keep them from cracking if one should knock off my desk, I put a small pillow under it. This way it has something to break the fall. Manual pencil sharpeners put a lot of stress on the core by twisting, so I used an electric pencil sharpener and I cut down that stress.
Number 8.
I place all my pencils in protective books. This way I don't lose any.
Number 7.
Before I start coloring with wax, I use a Sharpie marker to outline the eyelashes.
Number 6.
I use a magnifying glass to make sure I don't miss anything.
Number 5.
Map out your color choices before you start to color. This way, there's no surprises in the end.
Number 4.
Choose which direction your light is going to come from. There is nothing that ruins a picture quicker than when you have lighting that's coming from two different directions. Your shadows will all be off.
Number 3.
You work so hard on a picture, and the next day, the colors just seem muted. How could you fix this problem? Spray seal it. Works every time.
Number 2.
Choose a healthy snack. I know it's easy to grab just any old thing, but when you're sitting there coloring and you're blindly eating, the calories really can add up.
The number 1 thing we do before we start coloring is...
The number one thing that I do before I start coloring is always pick my color palettes. I pull my pencils just to make sure that I have a good variety and everything match. I usually test them out on a scrap piece of paper to make sure they're all blending well together. And to make things even easier for you, I have created a website that will specialize in these color palettes. By September, I'm hoping to have approximately 500 of these photos, and they're color matched palettes for you to look at. On these palettes, I don't include every color in the picture because there's many, many colors, but I do take samples of the major colors on the page, and then it'll be your job to apply pressure and get various degrees and shades, but you will have a really good idea of what the color palette will look like before you apply it to your own page. The next part of my video, I'm going to take this cake palette and I'm going to turn it into a tree. Okay, we got our color palette all ready for us, and I'm going to start with the darkest color. I always start with my darks, not the ultimate dark. You never start with black. Start with your darker colors, and I'm just trying to figure out where my highlights and my shading is going to be. That's the whole bottom layer. It doesn't get good until later on. Right now, it's just keep filling in. Got to get out to the ends of the tree limbs. Okay, now I'm moving on to the pink, which I think is the lightest color of the palette. And that's why I'm trying to put in some of the highlights. Now, I'm not using white yet. I'll use white in a little while. I'm going to admit that I'm not feeling this picture as far as a design goes. I like the picture and I think it's a great example, but I have like 1,000 coloring books and this was just a good example. And I clearly need a manicure. That's coming Monday. Okay, now adding in the red, which is kind of looking like blood. That's why I was saying that I wanted yellow. Had I had a yellow pencil as part of my options, this tree I am seeing fire coming out. That's like what my brain is telling me. And then I put rules on myself and no yellow, so I couldn't put it in. But this would have been a really kick-butt picture if I was able to do it in fire colors. And if I had that yellow pencil, the red would have turned orange, would have been perfect. Back to that sienna. You can almost see the highlights starting to take form. And this is the first time I'm picking up a black pencil, and it's just to get the really dark areas in. That's why you never use your darkest color when you first are shading things in, because you don't know how dark you're going to take it. And this is a prime example of why color alongs are really difficult. Got my white pencil. That's where the real highlighting begins. But this is a prime example of why color alongs are really difficult. It's good to give an idea, but nobody's going to be able to follow me doing this picture. It's kind of why I want to take, while we're sitting here watching, take my videos into having people a little bit more independent. I get a lot of newbie questions where it's just like, go with it. Just go with the flow. Don't follow step by step. There is no artist that you can just follow step by step. I added in that blue just to show you what the contrast of the background is going to look. And I like the blue. I'm not going to finish this picture in this video because this could be a video in itself, just doing this tree. But I just wanted to give you an idea how, just let yourself go. You didn't expect a piece of cake to be a tree, and now you know it can be.
If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that like and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell.